Most people believe that if you work hard, produce results, and do your job well, you will be rewarded, promoted, respected, protected. But what if I told you that sometimes the exact opposite happens? What if being competent actually makes you a target? What if excellence attracts criticism instead of recognition? Today, we're talking about something that happens in medicine, business, education, government, and countless workplaces around the world. Why good employees become targets. And why some organizations seem determined to push out the very people they should be trying to keep. My name is Dr. Aisha Rush, and welcome to episode 6 of Informed and Unfiltered, where we discuss the truth about medicine, the good, the bad, and the ugly. This topic is near and dear to my heart because I have personally experienced difficulties with this very issue. I have put a lot of work, energy, time, and dedication to building my career and brand over the years. In my most recent work, it has been my goal to promote and uphold patient safety. There have been times where I've been faced with very difficult situations where patient safety has been compromised. And while many organizations would love to hear about things like this in an effort to correct the problems, I found quite the opposite. The more I expressed concerns, the more I became a threat. The more I expressed fear of the dangers involved in unsafe patient situations, I became a target. Some of my experience in situations like this was the impetus for me writing my first book, Knowing When to Quit and How to Do It with Dignity, The Hidden Cost of Staying and the Power to Walk Away. My book is actually scheduled to launch on August 1st of this year. So if you found yourself in similar situations, or if you've ever stayed too long in a job, relationship, organization, or situation because you believe leaving would mean failure, or you find yourself in a job that is no longer rewarding, or the environment is toxic, and you find yourself losing a part of you every day you show up, this book is for you. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the myth of meritocracy. Many of us are raised to believe, work hard, stay focused, produce results, and you'll succeed. But real workplaces are run by human beings, and human beings are influenced by insecurity, fear, ego, politics, competition. Success is not always rewarded. Sometimes it's resented. I know this all too well. In many cases, not to toot my own horn, but I have more education, degrees, and experience than some of the people that act as my superior. While it was never my goal to compete for their job, their ego, insecurities, and the idea of competition ruled the way they saw and treated me. I actually had one of my superiors ask me if I wanted their job. I told them absolutely not. Who wants a job that requires you to sell your soul and neglect simple moral standards and forget what it is to be a team player or have your leadership skills diminished so significantly that you can't effectively lead a team? But that didn't stop them from trying to tear down my character and make me look like the problem. They began to build a narrative to turn people against me, to make me look like I was disruptive to the overall operation. I became a target very quickly. But again, we have to realize we're dealing with human beings. The reality is, sometimes high performers expose weakness. One of the biggest reasons high performers become targets is simple. Their competence highlights the incompetence of others. The employee who consistently performs at a high level creates an uncomfortable comparison. Without saying a word, they expose poor leadership, weak work ethic, inadequate training, lack of accountability. And some people don't appreciate being exposed. Exposure threatens their position. Exposure threatens their character. This is especially so if their identity is tied to their job. Exposure exposes who they think they are and how they think others see them. In some cases, it threatens their innermost self. So your excellence actually becomes a mirror that reflects someone else's inadequacy. Think about that. Good employees threaten insecure leaders. Not all leaders are insecure, though, but insecure leaders often feel threatened by talented people. Why? Because talented employees ask questions, identify problems, generate ideas, gain respect from others. A secure leader sees that as an asset. An insecure leader sees that as competition. The difference is enormous. Remember my story I just told you about identifying patient safety issues and speaking up about it, but receiving the opposite of assistance or help in correcting the problems? And remember me saying I was asked by my superior if I wanted their job? Well, use your imagination and do the math. I think you get the picture here. Strong leaders develop talent. Weak leaders eliminate it. Organizations often value loyalty over competence. This is especially true in dysfunctional workplaces. Some organizations claim they want innovation, but what they actually want is compliance. Some organizations claim they value honesty. What they actually reward is silence. The employee who asks difficult questions often becomes more threatening than the employee who performs poorly. Some organizations reward incompetence if it means compliance. If you're the person that will stay silent when things are clearly going wrong, or you're willing to sell your soul and compromise your dignity to stay in line with the dysfunction, that particular individual becomes the asset, not the competent person willing to speak up, be innovative, or come up with ideas and solutions. In some organizations, being right is more dangerous than being wrong. Think about this. Poor performers often create problems, yet they sometimes remain employed for years. Why? Because they aren't perceived as a threat. Meanwhile, a high performer may be scrutinized relentlessly, not because they're failing, but because they are succeeding, and success attracts attention. Medicine is definitely not immune in any of this. Let's talk about healthcare. Medicine likes to think it operates differently. It doesn't. Hospitals are organizations. Organizations are made of people, and people have biases. Some physicians become targets because they challenge the status quo. They question unsafe practices. They refuse to cut corners. They advocate for patients. The irony is that the very behaviors patients want from physicians can create conflict within the system. I absolutely get if this makes no sense. I too grapple with making sense of this, and it's quite scary to think that advocating for patients and their safety can lead to physicians becoming targets and being fired. Who would ever think a day like this would come? Unfortunately, that day is here, and patients are and will continue to suffer. Sometimes the physician advocating hardest for patients becomes the physician viewed as the problem. Think of the emotional toll all of this must take, right? Being targeted changes people. It makes them question themselves, their competence, their worth, their identity. Even highly successful people can begin asking, am I the problem? Am I imagining this? Am I good enough? That self-doubt is often the goal. Not always consciously, but functionally. A person who questions themselves is easier to control. God knows I went through all of these questions in my mind, and the mental exercises that comes with those questions are relentlessly overwhelming. But the problem with me was I have always been pretty well rooted in my personal identity and have a strong link to my core personality. I had to create a space where I can come back to self and center. And this is very important in situations like this and in life. I have always had an issue in situations where people were trying to control me. Because of my significant aversion to this control factor, I often saw the signs pretty quickly and began my exit before that control began to change the core of me. But the emotional toll it takes to go through this process of questioning yourself and trying to remain true to who you are and what you believe in is exhausting. And anyone who has been through this understands the resulting exhaustion. It can be overwhelming. So what are the warning signs? If you're being targeted, you may notice increased scrutiny, exclusion from opportunities, rumors and gossip, moving goalposts, unequal standards, sudden negative feedback, isolation. One incident isn't necessarily a problem. A pattern is. Patterns matter. So what do good employees need to understand? The most important lessons are being targeted is not always evidence of failure. Sometimes it is evidence of impact. Sometimes it means you've become visible. Sometimes it means you've exposed something others wanted hidden. And sometimes it means you've outgrown the environment. And sometimes it means your time is up and it's time to make some moves and definitely make some changes. You may have outgrown this environment and need to exit before it consumes you or changes who you are. Not every workplace deserves your talent. So, why do the best employees often always leave first? This sometimes surprises people. The interesting thing is, it's never surprised me. Because if they think like me, you'd quickly leave a sinking ship too. The strongest employees do often leave before everyone else does. Because they have options. They know their value. They know their worth. And eventually, they stop trying to convince an organization to recognize what should have been obvious from the beginning. If you're listening to this and you've ever felt targeted despite doing everything right, I want you to hear this. Do not automatically assume you are the problem. Take an honest inventory. Look at the facts. Look at the patterns. Look at the environment. Sometimes the issue is performance, but sometimes the issue is that excellence became inconvenient. And there is a tremendous difference between those two. I'm Dr. Aisha Rush, and this is Informed and Unfiltered, where we discuss the truth about medicine, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Thank you for listening. Please like, comment, and subscribe. You can also find the Informed and Unfiltered podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Buzzsprout, Podbean, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. You can also find specific obstetrics and gynecology and wellness topics on my personal YouTube channel under Dr. Aisha Rush. See you next time, where we will be discussing yet another compelling topic. See you soon. Take care.